Hello friends, I am Achal and here we are with one more topic, that is conditional sentences. Now what is it? Sometimes you must have seen a sentence starting with future and the other part is in present tense. Sometimes you must have seen a sentence starting with present tense and the other part is in future tense. Or you must have seen one part is in past tense, past indefinite, and the other part is in past perfect tense. What are these conditions and why do we follow them in the sentences? Now here we have jotted down 10 important and special conditional sentences we can expect in your examination. So to begin with this, the first thing is, if you have an imaginary sentence. Now, I hope you understand the meaning of imaginary sentence. It is something that has not happened, but you think of it. Something that has not happened, but you think of it is an imaginary sentence. So, if you have an imaginary sentence and with this you have words like if, as if, wish, or as though. First thing, you need to mark two things here. First is an imaginary sentence, something that you think of but it has not happened yet. And the second point is, it must have words like if, as if, wish, or as though. The verb used after them should be in past tense plus plural form. Now everybody knows that past tense plus plural form forms what? Verb. So whenever we have an imaginary sentence having words like if, as though, or wish, you will place were as a verb in that sentence. Let's take some examples. For example, we have if I was you, I would have done this. Now quickly tell me what should be the error in this sentence. If I was you, I would have done this. Now this sentence expresses an imaginary sentence. Why? Because it says if I was you. This person isn't you, but it thinks of it. That means it's an imaginary sentence. And with that, we have the word if in this sentence, if I was you. So here was would be incorrect and what we need to place is were, and the correct sentence will be if I were you, I would have done this. Similarly, if I give you one more sentence, he behaves as if he was my master. He behaves as if he was my master. Now here you will see what? That one part of the sentence is in present tense and the other part will be in past tense. Have you seen this kind of a sentence? Present plus past together in a sentence. Now it happens. When does it happen? When we have an imaginary sentence. Now he behaves as if he was my master. He behaves, he tries to rule me, but he is actually not my master, but he thinks of it. He thinks of it, that means it's an imaginary sentence. Having as if used in a sentence, we will use past tense plus plural form and it should be he behaves as if he were my master. So are you getting this? If you have an imaginary sentence having words like if, as if, wish, or as though, the verb used will be in past tense plus plural form, that is were. Now let's move on to the next rule. Now your second rule says, if the main verb is in future tense. If the main verb of the sentence is in future tense, what you need to do? Use present tense after words like unless, until, even if, before, etc. or rather I can add when as well here. So what does it say? If the sentence has a main verb in future tense and you have words like until, unless, even if, before, when, then the verb used after them should be in present tense. Let's say, take some examples and then understand what does this rule actually mean. It says, I will not write a letter unless I get a new pen. Or rather, let me write the incorrect sentence for you and then you'll say, I will get a new pen. Now here if you see, what is the actual verb? What is the main verb of this sentence? I will not write a letter. I will not write a letter. This is the main verb, right? And what is the condition of not writing the letter? The condition is I will get a new pen, right? So whenever we have a condition which says the main verb is in future tense, I will not write a letter. The verb used after unless should be in present tense. So will get will be incorrect. We need to place I get a new pen. And here is the correct sentence, I will not write a letter unless I get a new pen. Similarly, if I say, I shall visit her when my grandmother will come. I shall visit her when my grandmother will come. Now, if you understand this sentence, what I am going to do? I am going to visit her. That means shall visit is given in the main verb is given in future tense. What do we have used? We have used when here. And then after when, what we need to place is, we need to place a present tense. So, will come makes this sentence incorrect. And how will we correct it? We need to use this in present tense. And what does it become? It becomes comes. So, the correct sentence will be, I shall visit her when my grandmother comes. So, let's take a review. It says the main verb is in future tense. The present tense should be used after words like unless, until, even if, before and when. Let's move on to the next rule. Now moving further, we have the third rule and it says, the third condition rather I would say, and it says if you have two actions written in past tense, two actions happened in the past, one after the other, not together but one after the other. If you have two actions in the past, one after which has happened one after the other, not together, one has completed and the other started, right? Now in that condition you need to place two tenses here. What? First says the former action and the latter action. Former action defines your first action and latter action defines your second action. Getting my point? Two actions in the past, former, one completed before the other one, former action, whichever was done first, that will be in past perfect tense. And the latter, that means that ended after the first one, that comes in simple past tense, or you can also call it past indefinite tense. They are same, right? So if I give you one sentence, you will be able to solve it. He examined the papers and found one paper disappeared. One paper disappeared. He examined the paper and found one paper disappeared. Now here, if you look closely, the first action, he examined the papers. What was next? Paper disappeared. So the paper disappeared first or he examined first? Obviously the paper disappeared first and after that he examined, then he found out, right? So in that condition, the first action, that means the disappearance of the paper, the first action, the former action is paper disappeared. So it should be in past perfect tense, but we have placed disappear, that is simple past. It makes this sentence incorrect. And what do we follow in past perfect tense? We follow had plus verb's third form. So verb's third form is already placed here. What we need to do is had. We need to place had and the correct sentence will be he examined. Now you can see examined is verb second form used as simple past. The latter action is defined in simple past, which is correct. So the sentence is he examined the papers and found one paper had disappeared. So what happens? Two actions in the past happened one after the other. The former action that completed first, that will be in past perfect tense. The action that completed at the second position, that will come under simple past tense or past indefinite tense. Now let's move on to the next rule. Now we have come to the fourth condition and says we cannot use two future tense in a single sentence. Do not use two future tense in a single sentence. So if I say you are not supposed to use two future tense in a single sentence, then what do? We have again two options, former and latter. You know the meaning of former and latter? First action is former and the second action is latter. When I say former action, it means the action that completed first. That will be in present tense, and the action that will complete after that, it will be in future tense. For example, if I say I will call you when you will reach there. I will call you when you will reach there. Now what happens is we have two actions here. The person will call and the person will reach, right? You have two actions. What will be done former? What will be the first action? The calling part or the reaching part? Obviously, the person will reach first, right? So this will be in present tense. We'll not write will reach, rather we'll use you reach there. And the second action, that is the latter action that happened after the first one, will be in future tense, and we have placed I will call you. Will call is in future tense, so this sentence, it becomes correct now. And it says I will call you when you reach there. So what is it? When we have two future tenses in a sentence, we cannot use them. We can place former action in present tense and the latter action in future tense. So this is what follows in condition number 4. Moving further, we have the fifth condition, and it says sometimes in a condition we use if in a sentence without an imaginary sentence, right? If we are using if, the first thing or the first verb that should be used with it is in simple present tense, and the second verb will be in simple future tense, right? Understand this thing. If we are using if in a sentence, if has three conditions. First, it will be in present tense. Second, it will be in past tense. And the third condition is it will be in past perfect tense. So what we need to follow is if follows simple present tense, the following should be in simple future tense. For example, you have if I find her address, I will send her a parcel. If I find her address, I will send her a parcel. Now here you can see the sentence starts with if. The condition, according to the condition, the sentence starts with if. The following verb should be in simple present tense, as we have placed find is in present tense. After that, the verb used should be in simple future tense, and we have used it with send. So what happens is when we use if, this part will be in present tense. That means the part associated to if will be in simple present tense and the other part will be in future tense. And that too, which future tense, which present tense? We are talking about simple present and simple future, which is also known as present indefinite or future indefinite. Let's move on to the next rule. Now the sixth condition that you have says will, shall or would. Will, shall or would. These three words will not be used after certain words, and what are these? Will, shall or would will not come with the part that has. Will, shall and would. These three words will not be used if you have certain words in the part of the sentence. And what are these words? With the part that has if, as soon as, provided, before, after, until, unless, in case, when, and lest. So what does it say? We will not use will, shall, would, after, if, as soon as, provided, before, after, until, unless, in case, when, and lest. You need to remember these words that you will not use future tense, that is will, shall or would, after these words. For example, if I say, she will come to meet you as soon as you will reach Delhi. So what is it? He will come, or rather she will come to meet you as soon as you will reach Delhi. Now here you can see we have placed a word that is as soon as. We have placed it here. And what did I tell you? Will, shall, would will not come with the part that has. With the part that has as soon as. Right? So here we have as soon attached to you will reach Delhi. So here we will not write will, rather the sentence would be she will come to meet you as soon as you reach Delhi. So will, would and shall will not be used after the word as soon as. Let's take one more example. It says, there will be rush at the platform when the train will arrive. Again, there will be rush at the platform when the train will arrive. Again, what did I tell you? Will, shall and would will not be used with the words which has if, as soon as, provided, before, after, until, unless, in case, when and lest. Now here you have when in this condition and you have when in the sentence as well. So you will not use future tense after it as we have used. So here will be removed and the sentence will become there will be rush at the platform when the train arrive. Now here will we place arrive? No. Train is singular, so arrive will become arrives, and the correct sentence will be there will be rush at the platform when the train arrives. Now let's move on to the seventh rule. Here comes your seventh condition, and it says if we have if in a sentence, after that simple past, or you can also call it past indefinite, is used, in that condition the subject will be there. After that you will place would, and after would the verb use should be in verb's first form. So you understand this thing. The first if condition that we talked about was if has simple present, then we have simple future after it. But here after if we have simple past tense. So the verb will be would plus V1 form. For example, it says, if I had money, would lend it to you. if I had money, would lend it to you. Is this sentence correct or incorrect? It's absolutely correct. Why? We have started the sentence with if, according to the condition. Then we need to place simple past tense, which is placed here had. Now, had here is not auxiliary verb. Rather, had here defines that we have something, we had something, right? So this is in simple past tense. The following verb should be would plus V1, and we have placed would plus V1. Now let's get back to the first condition that we read, and it says, if I were you, if I were you, I would have done this. If you remember, we read this sentence in the very first condition, in the very first rule, right? And that was incorrect. Why? I told you when we have an imaginary sentence, if I were you, right? So if I were you is given, I have if in the sentence. After that, I have placed simple past tense. The following verb, we have the subject here. The following verb should be would have done. No, it should be would plus V1. So the correct sentence would be I would do this. So the first sentence, the first error that you had in this sentence in condition number 1 was we replaced was by were. And the second error in this sentence is when we have simple past tense as we have here, then the subject, after the subject we'll place would plus V1 and it becomes I would do this. And the correct sentence is if I were you, I would do this. So understand this. What is it? If we have if in simple present tense, then we will use simple future. If we have if in simple past tense, the following verb will be would plus verb's first form. Coming forward, we have the 8th rule, which is again a condition of if clause. When we have if clause in a sentence, after that the verb used is in past perfect tense. So what happens is after this you will place the subject, and this should be followed by would plus have plus verb's third form. What happens? Now this is the third condition. What did we have? First, if with present tense, simple present, the following verb was in simple future. If with past tense, we had the other part in would plus verb's first form. If clause is given in past perfect tense, the following should be in would, have plus verb's third forms. Let's take an example. If I have seen you, I could have stopped my car. If I have seen you, I could have stopped my car. Now here would or could, anything can be placed. If I have seen you, I would have stopped my car. Now what is the incorrect part here? The incorrect part is if associated to past perfect. This is not past perfect. What we need to place is if I had seen you. Past perfect says had plus verb's third form. So had plus verb's third form. If I had seen you, I is the subject, could have verb's third form, stopped my car. Understood? So what happens is if we have if in the clause with a past perfect tense, the subject will follow would or could with have plus verb's third form. Now this sentence can be used in another way as well. How? In that condition, you start the sentence with had. You start the sentence with had. After that, you place the subject and then the verb's third form. After that, you will place an object. After that, again, you will place a subject with would plus have plus verb's third form. Now, what happens here is when you start a sentence, I am sure that you must have seen a sentence like this. What happens is you place had first, then the subject, then verb's third form, then the object, then the subject, would have, plus the, or rather I would say plus verb's third form. For example, if I say, had I seen you, I would have stopped my car. So what is it? Now we have started the sentence with had. We have placed the subject here. After that, verb's third form is placed here. The object you is given. After that, again we have placed the subject. Then we have placed would. After that, we placed have. After that, verb's third form will be placed and then the object. So the correct sentence is, had I seen you, I would have stopped my car. So this sentence can be written in both the ways. If you want to start the sentence with if clause, then you write if, after that past perfect, after that subject, after that could or would, after that have, and then verb's third form. Or you can write this sentence like starting with had, the subject, verb's third form, object, again the subject, would have, then the verb's third form. So both are correct, both have definite sentence structure, and you need to follow the sentence structure whenever you place a sentence like this. Now let's move on to the next rule. Now the next and the last conditional sentence comes, and it says if we have, if in a sentence, after that the subject is placed and after the subject we have were. After that again we'll place the subject plus would, and this will follow verb's first form. What happens? It says if I were a bird, I would have flown in the sky. Or we can write the first sentence as well here. If I were you, I would have done this. Right? It follows the same thing. If subject I, it has were in it, then again we place the subject. Then we have would. That's correct. Till here the sentence is absolutely correct. But after that we need to place we won. And what have we placed? Have flown, have done, which is absolutely incorrect. What we need to place is we won. And have flown, we won is fly. Have done, we won is do. So what happens is the sentence becomes, if I were a bird, I would fly in the sky. If I were you, I would do this. So what happens whenever we have conditional sentences, we need to follow certain sentence structures. What does it say? The first thing that we learned was if we have an imaginary sentence. It says whenever we have an imaginary sentence with if, as if, wish or as though in a sentence, then we follow past tense plus plural form, that is were. After that, we saw whenever we have main verb in future tense, the following tense should be in present tense after the words like when, until, unless, before, even if, etc. Similarly, we have the third condition which said that whenever we have two actions in the past, the former will be in past perfect and the second one will be in simple past tense. The fourth condition that we learned was when we have two future tenses used in a single sentence, what happens? The first action will be in present tense and the second action will be in future tense. The fifth condition that we had was whenever we have a sentence, whenever we have if clause related to a simple present tense, the following verb should be in simple future. Sixth says will, would and shall will not be used with words like provided, as soon as, when, until, unless, before, etc. The next condition we had was also from if clause. If we have if clause associated to simple past tense, after that we use would plus verb's first form. After that we had if clause associated to past perfect tense, and that followed would plus have plus verb's third form. After that, we again had a condition in which we can use the similar structure again with starting the sentence with had plus subject plus verb's third form. And at last we had if the subject were, the subject will follow would plus V1. So I hope all these conditions are clear now and you can easily solve the questions related to this. Now let's move on and solve some exercises related to this.